Hello and welcome to another episode of Walking with Walfinch. We're here at the IFA, the International Franchise Association's annual convention in Las Vegas. The Vegas series, here we go.
Go, go, here we go. Go, go, now here we go. Now, go, go, here we go.
You ain't never ever seen nothing like this.
Go, go, here we go. Go, go, now here we go. Now, go, go, here we go.
You ain't never ever seen nothing like this.
Never have you ever seen something like me.
Welcome to another episode of Walking with Walfinch. Today I'm really pleased to announce that I've got Keith Levenson from Client Tether with me. Now Keith's got lots of experience and he'll talk about that in a second, but the reason that he's so important to me is because 2 years ago he introduced me to my first In-N-Out burger.
Exactly. The best thing about Vegas, right? Like
absolutely.
that was a great conference, and I always tell everybody the same thing. I'm like, I got my first In-N-Out burger. People from the West Coast are like, how's that possible? Like, they don't come my way yet. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, they're not franchising in the UK.
No,
right?
they're not franchised in the U.S. They're all corporate owned.
Yeah, which is amazing.
I know, right? You would think of that. You always, it's so funny. You see some of these organizations, and you're like, "Ooh, that must be a franchise," and it may not be. And some others that you're like, "That can't be a franchise," and it is a franchise, right? Because there's so many. I think 3,500 active franchisors in the United States right now at any given time.
3,500.
3,500.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really wild when you talk about the numbers of growth. Like the really big brands make up such a small percentage.
Yeah.
It's like less than 20% actually ever get to 100 units.
That is amazing. Less than 20%.
Less than 20%. It's like
Gosh.
18, 16, 18%. I can't remember exactly what the number was, but it was less than 20, which is crazy when you think about it. And one of the things I think especially for early stage brands, right? Like you come up with this great concept, you're running this corporate location, you're absolutely just smoking it, you've got all this revenue, and then somebody comes along and says, you should franchise your business. And they go, yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Right? Like you can scale and it's less cost, and which is true in a lot of ways. What they don't say is, it's fucking hard. It's really, really hard. And the guys that are super successful, women, men, whatever you want to say, right? They're super successful because they work really, really hard, and they're okay with it, and they're well capitalized, and they're doing all the things, and they're doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
They're providing value to people to say, hey, are you interested in what I have? Great.
Yeah.
Here's something about me. Here's some of my personality. Here's some of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Let me share it with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As we were just talking about that earlier, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so true, yeah.
it's so funny, like the value add for you as an early stage franchisor, right, is as a franchise prospect to your brand is they get to learn from you.
Yeah.
We just walked by a couple of people at massive brands. You're not learning from them. I'm sorry. You're learning
And
from
there's
their
too many
business
layers in between them and the franchisee.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it's
there has
so
to
true,
be.
yeah.
Because they're so busy and they're operating this multi-conglomerate company,
Yeah.
these portfolio brands, and now there's all these layers that we keep adding on to the franchise
It's a big
world.
ship,
It is.
essentially.
It's a massive ship
Yeah.
and once it gets moving, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about a franchise. Once you get that momentum, it's really fascinating how you can build and it can grow, and then you start to see it really start to expand, and that's where it gets super exciting, right?
Yes. So Keith, I mean, I've got so many questions and a finite amount of time, but I'm so interested in franchise support, how people grow their business, and I know that's kind of where you've really kind of eat a living at, right?
Yeah.
And really thinking about that. But just 2 minutes on your previous experience, what got you into franchising, what made Keith, basically.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love hearing people's franchise story because nobody says, "Oh, I got in this business because of franchising." You're like, no, I was doing something else and I fell into this shit. And that's literally what happened. People moved into my neighborhood from New Zealand. They were building out this fun family entertainment center, and got to meet them and got to know them. And next thing you know, the store got open and was doing great. And people making fun of me, and supposedly my friends, and so it became this really interesting journey of like, hey, we don't know how we're going to grow.
Yeah.
What's this franchising thing?
Yeah.
And so just kind of found it, and I ended up being the guy who started it, who basically went up to IFE blind, and walked in there and said, got this crazy thing we're trying to franchise. Is it possible? And met some amazing people, some of like the biggest rock stars in this industry. Took pity on me, I think, because they were like, man, this guy doesn't know shit. And they were really cool, and they were really nice, and nobody tried to sell me anything.
Yeah.
They were just like, here's what we can do to help you. Does that sound good?
But that's so true. My experience of the IFA, which is why I keep coming out here every year. It's a huge time commitment, cost commitment
for you especially.
But actually, I find everyone is so giving. You can have a conversation with literally anyone. Like huge franchisors that are like, yeah, cool, I'll spend 20 minutes with you, and this is what I did. Right?
100%. It is fascinating to me. It's why I just am so enamored by the industry. And I'm 52, going on 53. I've been in this about 11 years.
You look about 25.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate
even
it.
better than last year.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll see. It's early in the week. That's why. By Wednesday, I'm like, this is awesome. No. What's it? There's sign behind you. You're welcome. What was I? Oh, it was about 11 years ago I got into this, and I said to my wife, so I'm like, early 40s. I'm like, yep, finally found my calling. I finally found it. Like, these are my people.
These are my people.
Hey, you just keep on walking. You just keep on walking. No one wants to hear your. Do you have a microphone on? You don't have a mic. You know why?
You get mic'd up later. As we can see, Keith is super popular in the franchising industry 11 years later, right?
Well, that's just what's so cool about it. Like, I met her 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now we are really good friends. And we see each other at these events. Like, you come to IFA every year. I do 15 to 20 events a year.
And honestly, meeting up with one of, like yourself, was one of the things that I look forward to, because actually you make friends with people.
100%. Like, I tell people, like, my friends are like, man, don't you get tired of travel? And I'm like, the to and from my house, yes.
Yeah.
But I know when I'm getting here, like, I'm hugging people.
Yes.
Like, legitimately friends of people like this with you. Like, you're going to come karaoke with us tonight, right? This is what we do for a living. And it's a wonderful, and it's like you've said it before, the giving nature of it, right? And you got to think about what is franchising at its core? You have this great idea, right? And instead of holding on to all the dollars for yourself, you go, hey, let me show you how to run this business. Yeah. And I'm going to take 6 cents of every dollar that you make. Yeah. And I'm going to take some other fees, right? But that's really, I'm going to show you how to become a professional business person.
It's a pretty good gig, really, isn't it, when you think about it?
It really is. You get support of someone who's been in an industry their entire lifetime, who has run a successful business, so successful that they're not able to expand it with a model that doesn't require them to be at every unit. Yeah. So you become a teacher. And I think that's the giving aspect of this. It's about, okay, I've learned something, and I learned this early on by the people that came before me, right? So it's like that passing it down, where they said, like, I joked about IFE, like, I didn't know anything. People took pity on me. So when I meet somebody for the first time, I'm like, how can I help you? Like, yes, I'm a supplier. I have a business that we're running. I'm on the sales team. It's my job to get more people signed up to use our software, right? But that is inconsequential. If you have questions, I'm going to spend 2 hours on the phone with you. I don't care if you ever buy it from me.
And you've got sensible answers. I think that's a really interesting thing. Like, when I've spoken to you over the years, you've just given such interesting advice on how to grow, how to scale, how to support franchisees. I mean, that is, there's one thing just being given, but actually there's having real substance there. And I think that's the thing that I would really love to hear from you today. How, if you were advising your younger self and saying, this is how to scale a business, and, what would that be?
Yeah, I think so as a franchisor, one of the first things you have to look at is, what's the capital requirement that I'm going to have to intake, or I'm going to need to outtake, that's going to come out of my pocket, right, to really build this right? And what does that mean, build it right? Well, it means right people in a lot of ways. You have to get, it's the old adage, you got to have the right people in the right seats on the bus. Yeah. And one of the failure points, I think, is support on the support side, from a franchising perspective. Support comes second, because you have to have development, you have to have sales, you have to sell a franchise to franchisees, right? So we focus too much on the front end, because it's actually the back end. And that support has got to be in person, I believe. Zoom is fine, right? So in person can mean Zoom, right? It doesn't have to be on site. But if you're a brick and mortar, if you have an actual location, you need to have your people go visit that location every year. There's got to be a trust relationship that franchisee has to their business coach. And that person should have business coaching experience or business experience of some kind. You can teach somebody how to teach, right? But if you don't know fundamentals of business, how are you going to understand it? That's what my daughter, she's a sophomore in college. She just declared her major. She's going to be a business major. She's taking an accounting class. And I was like, awesome. Pay attention when they talk about P&Ls and balance sheets. Because how many people do you meet? They don't know anything about that.
Nobody does, right?
Right.
Actually, even a lot of business people that have been in business for years still don't really grasp that. I mean, actually,
Yep.
I ran business. I've been in business since I was 22, right? I'm 38 tomorrow.
Oh, happy
Sorry,
birthday.
thank you.
Speaking of looking good, you're a good looking man.
Well, thank you. But actually, for the first 7 years of my business career, I had no idea how to read a balance sheet or a P&L report, or
Right.
whatever. I just sort of was worried about it. The accountant would tell me it's okay or not okay. But you've got to learn about this
Yeah.
stuff, right? Because how do you run a business without that?
It is fundamental to and it doesn't matter what your widget is. It is fundamental to understand what your financial picture looks like, because that's how you get to make the decisions you get to make. It's okay, I want to invest in that person. I think they're amazing. I want them to come in and be the president of my brand. And it's really funny. You're a founder. You're going to take your brand to a certain point, and then you're probably pass it off. You're not going to be the CEO at some point, right? And that's okay. That's actually how businesses are. The person who starts it, the Jeff Bezos of the world, are rare. There's only a few of them. That's why we talk about them so much with Zuckerberg and Musk and all the rest of them, right? They're rarities. It's usually, okay, I took it here. Now I need you to come in because you're a builder. You can expand me 12x.
People that are good at building, right?
Exactly.
And have that experience, And
And when it comes back, to it's foundational, right? P&L statements, balance sheets, those are foundational elements. You've got to start, Dave Barr said this at Springboard a couple of years ago, and I love it. Franchising is built, you're building a franchise system for the average person who has an average work ethic and an average intellect to have average success on an average day.
That is everything, isn't it? Because actually, we'd all love our top performer to be replicated 200 times, but that's not real.
It's not realistic. It's 100%. It's so funny. You're going to have, I always tell people, it's a 20-60-20. 20% high performers. They are going to knock it out of the park no matter what systems you have, because they are high-performing individuals. They know how to get shit done, and they get it done. You have the middle 60. They're your average people. That's the bulk of your system, is 60%. Every year, you're trying to take 2 or 3 of those 60s and move them up to the top 20, right? That's what you're trying to grow those. Those ones that are down at the bottom, well, you got to have a conversation with them. It's either get on the ship and let's lift, or maybe this isn't the right opportunity for you. And there's the 20% at the bottom that you have to let them fail fast with them, and when it's the wrong decision, have that conversation with them.
And so, when do you know it's the right time to have that conversation?
If you got to know them, you got to ask them the question: are you happy doing this? You seem unhappy. You're always complaining. Every time we get on a call together, you're sullen. You were coming through the sales process. Man, you are a happy-go-lucky person. You seem like you really wanted to do this. And is there something going on in your life? You've got to take the time, energy, and effort to know who your franchisees are, know their families, know their people. Understand their life. And everybody has good intentions. Well, most people have good intentions. There are bad players in this industry. It's an unfortunate aspect of it, but it's the reality of it. There's bad players in everything, right? In every part of the world. But there's 2%, right? 2% of the world are assholes. They stand out to us because there's only 2% of them. 98% of us who just want to have a good life and laugh and have fun and go to karaoke on Monday night when you're in Vegas. I don't know. But that's, so it's that small percentage of people. Same here. But totally lost my train of thought. Not even sure where I was going with that. But
about how do you know when to have the conversation?
Right. So now you're talking with them all the way through. The exit conversation is a conversation you have in the development cycle. Hey, this may not work out. Is this a legally binding contract between us? It is. However, like every contract, it can be broken. We can come to terms. And you know what? We can do this in a way. We don't ever have to pay the attorneys. Sorry, attorneys. But we don't want to pay you your legal fees to go to court with this, because then it's astronomically expensive for both of us. It's not
Also,
worth
it leaves everyone with a very bitter taste in their mouth. And I think actually most of the time, if you have that good relationship, you can exit with a handshake, a smile, and a cuddle, and say, "Great, please crack on, and good luck with the rest of your next adventure."
100%, right? And in the U.S., right? So we've got the FDD that you've got to provide. It's this big document, right? There's the FDD and the FA, right? And in the FDD, item 3, any litigation that you have for 10 years has to stay in that document.
10 years.
10 years. Wow. So anytime you go to court, boom, it's got to go, and it has to be put into your FDD, which means you've got to renew it, you've got to redo it, you got to send it back out. It's all these things that have to happen. And so if you're doing that, why can't we come to an agreement that we can just part ways? The opportunity has to be there. You have to have that relationship with them, because not everyone wins. It'd be great if we all batted 1,000, but Babe Ruth didn't, so none of us are going to, right? We're going to fail, and you're going to make a bad decision. You're going to let somebody into your system that you don't really want in. And so it's got to be, they've got to have the confidence in you to say, when you come to them and say, I don't think this is working out. Maybe we should decide to part ways here. Let's look at what that looks like. And it's uncomfortable. No one likes it. But there's a reason that there's programs out there for reselling franchises. There are companies out there that's all they do is sell businesses to people that are already existing, because sometimes things just don't work.
And actually, and that's okay. You know, we make too much of an emotionally big deal out of it. That's all right.
Exactly.
You know, it's if you fail fast and you're not in there for 10, 15, 20 years, you know, sort of failing for the whole time.
Right.
You know, just get in, you know, it's not working 2 years in, great. You know, or I thought I was going to love it and I don't, and, you know, all of that, great, I'm off, you know, and that's really, I think that's such sort of sage advice. So we've got scaling a business, and it's just kind of, you know, having the 6 inches between your ears and kind of getting in and doing
In my case, 2 1/4.
right? And then you've got the other part, which is actually the franchise support piece. But so what have you seen franchisors do really successfully in terms of support?
Yeah, build great teams. And it's funny, we were just at a conference for a brand, has about 70 franchisees in it. And I'm going to talk tech a little bit. I will not talk about Client Tether because that's not what we're here to do. But from a tech stack perspective, this was equivalent to a 200 plus unit operation. They understood what their franchisees need to be successful.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you.
To not just be successful today, but tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so what they have done is actually built an ecosystem around their franchisees to help them be successful. And that's really important. Too often, early stage franchisors, they make the mistake of saying, I want my franchisees to have a choice. They didn't come to you because they want choices.
Yeah.
They came to you because they want you to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And they don't have the time and energy. They're running a business day by day. You're running an operation, a global operation. You have to figure out what point of sale system do they need if you need that. How do they communicate with people? What drives leads into their funnel?
Yeah.
How do they convert? Do they convert well? How do I make them convert well?
Yeah.
And then you've got to spend, you know, it's foundations, right? Here's your P&L statement. Let's talk about that once a month, right?
Yeah.
It's putting in systems in place to make them successful, not for your own success. And that's when you have to think about this from, my job is to make someone else successful. I will then in turn become successful because of their success. That is the core of what we do in franchising. We don't become successful in a bubble. I'm a supplier to the industry. I can't be successful unless you're there.
Yeah.
Your franchisees aren't successful. You don't want to use my CRM platform.
Yeah.
It's not converting sales, Keith. Like, okay, then I don't get
It's all a cycle, isn't it? A wheel that has to keep turning, and actually everyone needs to be successful in that. And I think that's actually, you know, maybe that's the thing that contributes to this willingness to share, you know, information. Right?
Yeah.
And it's really, I think that's such an important thing that you just said there. Actually, just having the right people around you. I mean, years ago I went about by accident actually hiring the right people.
Right.
You know, and I sort of took the first one on and I thought, hold on a second, my life just changed. Shit, I need more of these guys, right? You know, and it was then just saying, actually just hunting out the best people and always be looking for talent.
Yes.
I was talking to someone last night and she said, I said to her, what are you trying to get out of the IFA? And she said, well, I'm going to walk away with 2 hires. And I was like, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, that is great. She's like, I'm hunting.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, nice.
It's so funny. You're 100% right. Like, we added to our team this year. Last year, it's already 20. It is February, isn't it? So we added to our team last year. The person that we added, I had met a year before that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was one of those casual at an event. And she was there. And I'm like, man, she is wonderful. She has got a lot going for herself. She is super sharp, really bright, hardworking, like dedicated, like she had checking off all the boxes. And so the minute that Dave, our CEO, came and said, hey, I want to add to the team, do you know anybody? I was like, oh, I know, absolutely. Like, this is a no-brainer to me. And she's
Building
now on
your
our
bench.
team.
Yeah.
Right, that's what you do.
Great.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care what your business is, it's people that turn it. We're in a people business. Every business is a people business.
Truly.
McDonald's is a people business, you know, but there's an airplane taking off. Southwest Airlines invented a great service for airplanes, right?
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Branson and all that who have expanded and made it even better. But it's really about people always. And the greater the person that you have within your organization, the better your organization is going to be.
Yeah. Which is just it's so interesting that, and just investing in the early doors. them,
Yeah.
because actually it changes the trajectory and the speed at which you can take off as well, I think.
100%, totally agree. And it's
For
funny.
franchisees as well, you know, Z's and Z's. I think it's the same for both parties. It's all about getting the right people around you, right?
Oh, 100%. Because when you think about a hire that you make as a franchisor, what's their job? It's to make a successful franchisee.
Yeah.
No matter what role they're in. They're
Yeah.
in the tech world, they're in the sales piece, they're doing development. It doesn't matter. Their goal is to bring more people into the system and then have them be successful. Like everybody talks about franchise development, and it's hard. There's no book for it, right? If there was one way to do it, there would have been one book. There's 97,000 books on franchising. I think somebody else just released one, so 97,001. And so, what is it that makes that system work and that one doesn't? It's how they treat their franchisees, and their focus has to always be their success first.
Yeah.
If you're going to hire franchise development or you're going to hire someone in support, well, I'm of the mindset you hire the support person.
Yeah.
Do the sales yourself if you're
Yes.
the founder.
Yeah.
You should be doing fran dev for yourself. I have friends that are FSOs. They're not going to like when I say that, but the reality is you can sell your brand better than they ever can, and you are going to be super picky about who you give your baby
Truly,
to.
yeah, truly.
And they're frankly not. They're incentivized to sell. That's
Yeah.
how they make money.
Yeah.
They're not going to make the best decisions all the time.
Well, also, I mean, I had a situation last year where we completed on a deal, and I actually, just while we were in that kind of early doors, like 2 weeks ago, I returned the money. I had a whole conversation with these guys. Said, actually, you're just not right for the brand. I mean, it's
Yeah.
painful, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in the driver's seat like that, you can make those decisions, and I think you
Yes.
then set the scene
Yep.
for the rest of the team to say, right, we want great people.
That's
You know,
right.
We're not just flogging stuff.
That's
we
right.
are really building something special.
You know, it's the truth. Like, it really is. And you're the leader. You have to set that example from
Yeah.
the top down.
Yeah.
And then the staff then goes, okay, yeah, it's, you know, and I get we have goals. We have growth goals. We all want to hit them. We want exit strategies. We'd all love to, you know, I'd rather be sitting by the pool maybe today. But that's not the reality.
arranged.
Right. I got nothing to do with it. Anyway, so like we have all these ideas, but it's okay to grow slow.
Yeah.
That's okay. Sustainability is the biggest key to franchising. You have to build a sustainable system that someone can operate. They're signing a 10-year franchise agreement with 2 5-year options. That's a 20-year curve,
Yeah,
right?
which is
That's a long ass
that's
time.
a generation almost, right? It's,
100%.
you know,
20 years ago, I was in the financial services world. I didn't even know what franchising was. I thought it was McDonald's. Literally, I didn't know anything else, right? With the time that the business had started, we Googled franchising and licensing because we weren't sure which was the right one. And because we had so much operational aspects of it, we were like, ooh, that operational control piece where we can teach them how to do this became super important to us. Which is why we went down the path. I didn't know what the hell franchising was. No one does.
Oh, my God.
It's wild, and it's fascinating, and I love the complexity of it. And I love the fact that there's no playbook.
yeah.
Because now we got to all figure it out. You're going to figure it out. Like you're going to talk to all these people, and they're going to tell you stuff. And 5% of it, you got to go. That just won't work for me,
Yeah.
right? Oh, but that other 95%,
You can put it all together and make your own playbook. right?
exactly.
It's,
And you start seeing that puzzle come together, right? But you know, and so when it comes to growth goals, like I get it. You have to sell. That's how you expand. That's how the system grows. That's how the brand grows. It's how you provide better equity to all your franchisees, because now there's brand value in the name. So if they want to sell, they have that value, right? All of that makes total sense. But if it's not to the right person,
yeah.
you can do more damage than you can do. And it's okay to grow at a pace that is right for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Aaron Harper, Rolling Suds, man, he killing it out of the box. That was how he set it up. That was how he got that was what he planned to do. So when his system launched, he was ready for it. He was ready to add guys like JT Thiessen, Madeline Zook, like all these rock stars from the franchise industry that he put around himself, because he knew he was going to grow fast, he was going to go hard. That worked for him. That doesn't work for everybody else.
Yeah, and also, you've got to be the same sort of, the right kind of CEO leader for that, right?
100%.
You know, it's got to be the right kind of business for that,
Yep.
and you've got to have the right systems, and you've got to be the right person that wants that kind of aggressive growth, and that's not for everyone. I think that's really interesting.
You're so right? It's how you perceive your business and how you want to grow your business, not what any of the talking heads say at this conference this week. It doesn't matter. Your growth is your growth. My growth is my growth. And if I want to do 12 units next year, I'm going to do 12. And I might only do 8, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. If you've got a problem with that, then I'm not going to take your private equity money. That's fine.
Exactly.
I can grow over here, be my little, have my nice little
do
system.
my thing.
Exactly. Or if you want to go super fast, well, then you better be super capitalized because it's going to take a hell of a lot of money.
And it's a very expensive exercise growing fast.
It is. Franchising in general is not inexpensive. If you want to become a franchisor, you should have at least $250,000 in the piggy bank before you get going, because you're going to burn through cash like crazy before any stuff. And like to your point before, somebody handed you that check.
Yeah, I mean it's really painful, right? Because actually one half of you is saying, this money will be super useful for me to do the next thing. But the other half of you is saying, I'm only going to return it slowly over, and I'm going to wind up my staff and they're going to be demotivated and all that kind of stuff. And so actually, you're better off just not taking that money in the first instance. We were at the Emerging Franchising Conference in Nashville a few years ago. And there they were talking about having basically $1 million to start a franchising business, give or take. And that feels like about right. It's it might be slightly less across the pond because there's less air travel and and all that kind of stuff. But it's an expensive exercise.
It is, and I think that one of the issues that I see in the industry is too many people go to these brands that they see being successful. You got this one standalone store, and they go, and you can be a franchise, right? And it's a cheap way of scaling. It's not.
It's really not.
It's not. Once you get to scale, then the money makes sense, right? Because you could have 120 units open and maybe have a corporate staff of 20.
Yes.
Right? So the numbers work from that perspective. That's why franchising, the business model is so attractive to people. But to get going, you have to have capital.
Yeah.
You can't find people. It's an average cost per lead in the franchise world right now is $278 in the U.S. Average cost per acquisition, so to deal, a little over $14,000. That's how much you're going to spend to get somebody through your front door to become a franchisee.
Wowzers, yeah.
So say you want to do 15, you want to do 10 deals this year, you need 150 grand.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to
cost.
Just
on that part.
Just for that one piece.
It's not even your support team and all the auxiliary costs that go with that, just on the marketing and hoping that it's going to convert.
And hope is exactly the right word. There's a lot of amazing professionals that know how to drive the right people into your funnel. But now you've got to go through that funnel. You've got to process it. That's time, energy, and effort. Always, always, always. And it's expensive. And it's heartbreaking when somebody hands you the check. Gary Finley told me, he's one of the first people I ever met in the world. He was like, whatever you do, don't take the check.
Don't take the
check. He's like, it's going to be so hard. You're going to have one of those days where you got to meet payroll and somebody's waving this check in front of your face and you're going, if I take that covers payroll for the next 6 months. But if I take it, I know this is going to be bad. I know we're not going to like each other.
And it causes bigger problems, right?
And it costs you 3 times as much money to get them out of the system as it did to bring them in.
And everyone does it. Everyone does it early doors when you're inexperienced. Everybody that I've spoken to has taken on the wrong people, with that kind of mindset behind them, thinking, well, actually, I think it is not going to be the right thing. But then in the end, you learn, right? And you can then make a choice of saying, am I going to go down the cowboy route or
That's
not?
Right. That's exactly 100%. Like I tell that story, and yes, I signed somebody to a franchise agreement, and we had to exit them out of the system.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing FranDev for a brand up until the end of the year, and I think we did a mutual separation with like 3 different franchisees this past year, right? But again, we were able to do that mutually and come to a mutual termination agreement to the franchise agreement because we had a really deep, fundamental relationship with those folks, and they knew when we came to them and said, "Hey, this isn't working out." They didn't. They knew it wasn't us coming to them and saying, "You're a bad human being." It was, "This isn't a good mesh. You're much more successful in your other part of your life, so why don't you just go do that?"
I think, and everybody wins that way, right?
They
You know,
do.
because actually this way everyone's losing. You know, and
100%.
it just does make for good business, and if we take the emotion out of the situation, actually there's a lot of positivity there.
I totally agree with you, and the emotion's the biggest part, right? Because people don't like to fail. No one does.
Yeah.
And admitting failure is even harder.
That's the first bit, right? Just kind of putting your hand up and saying, actually, this isn't working for me.
Exactly.
That could be as a franchisor or a franchisee.
100%.
And having those hard conversations. But
that's one of the things too. Like franchisors, if you get into it, everybody has the right intentions. Right? We're going to do this. We're going to be super successful. We're going to win. But not every franchisor and not every business should be franchised.
Yeah.
Once you start it, that doesn't mean you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I've helped multiple people unwind their franchise system. Is it hard? Are there legal ramifications?
Yeah.
Are there tough conversations? Yeah, there are. But it's better to stop than it's to keep throwing bad money after good, and you're wasting everybody's time and you're hurting people at the end of the day.
No, that's it's just so true. So Keith, I usually end these things asking, the one question that, if there was one thing that you could advise somebody to help them reach their goal of $1 million, what would it be? That one sort of golden nugget piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, don't start. Don't get in the franchising. Just forget about it. No, the first thing is, say it one more time.
So
with all the doors open. I'm like,
so I usually end these things asking the one question of, if there was one thing that you could advise somebody to help them reach their goal of $1 million, what would it be?
Oh yeah, start slow. Have a really, really dedicated team around you.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be one thing, right? But it's understanding your marketplace, understanding who it is that you're trying to attract, and then being okay with slow growth.
Yeah.
Determine how you're going to grow and how you want to grow, and then set forward on that path. And I love the IFA, I love what they do, but it's not right for everybody.
Yeah.
So you don't have to come to these conferences.
Yeah.
You can do it on your own. I think you should find somebody that's got some experience, and you need to. Don't ask them what brands they've worked with. Ask them what brands they're working with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because everybody can tell a story about, I worked with this brand and now they're this.
In the old
and they're
days,
that.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who are you working with now? What have you done recently? And how are you going to help me?
Yes.
Right? And if someone
Yeah.
is hard selling you, if you're in an early stage or you're thinking about franchising and there's somebody hard selling you, just walk away.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. You're not
It's
gonna be
so
happy.
true. But I think I really resonate with that. Having a mentor, I've got one in the UK who's really kind of navigated me through franchising, Simon. And it's just been, he's kind of helped me not to make loads of expensive mistakes. I've made other expensive mistakes,
Well, right. That's how you grow.
some of them he told me not to make in the first place. I was like, what do you know?
What do you
I'll do it
know?
anyway.
Well, exactly. Well, that's the point, right? You got to try, and you can get great advice, but it's only advice.
No, this is it. But thank you so much.
My pleasure,
It's
man.
been a
This is
real,
awesome.
real pleasure. Thank you.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Walking with Walfinch. Until next time.